Hey guys, if you are just joining us, welcome to Wildlives, Little Things show bringing you all the coolest animals every single Friday. I'm your host Mike, and you're watching right now some amazing sloths, which are getting you ready because we actually have a sloth in studio. You're gonna meet him and his owner, John Tarrant, here in just a little bit. But for now, enjoy these cuties because we're about to have the real thing right here on set. So get your questions ready, get your comments ready, so we're about to get started. Yes, we have a sloth in studio today. Let's meet him. Let's get wild. If you didn't believe me, here's the proof in the pudding. What's going on, everybody? And welcome to Wildlives, Little Things show, all about animals. And yes, we do have a sloth here with us. Let's meet him. My name is Mike Janella. As I said, I'm your host. But with me today, John Tarrant from Outrage Hiss. Many S's at the end, right? Pets, which is a great name. And John, introduce us to the star of the show that you brought with us today.
This is Oliver. He's a two-toed sloth. You can see he's got two toes here, but three in the back.
Yeah, a misnomer. Two-toed sloth, but he has three toes.
That's
so
right.
Explain that to me.
Well, if they're three-toed sloths, they're going to have three in the front and three in the back. But of course, this little guy, he's only got these two. And he's young, so these are going to get longer. When he's full grown, they're going to be about like that big. They're going to be pretty big, like little coat hangers to keep them in the canopy when the storms
That's
come.
incredible. I love that analogy, coat hangers. That's what these claws are like. You hang a coat up in the closet, and Oliver hangs himself up here on his branches. Guys, we want you to be part of the show as well. John's here. He's the expert. He can answer all your questions. We're going to learn so much about Oliver. But we also have, reading your comments, Sarah, producer Sarah, off camera. Say hello.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
So she'll be checking out everything you have to say. So if you have questions, if you have comments, if you want to know more about Oliver, or just tell us how cute and adorable he is, we're happy for that too. And Sarah will be reading those. So keep those comments coming. All right, John. So first things first with Oliver. This is, how old is he? I mean, tell us how much he weighs, the size here. What are we looking at compared to what you might see in an adult full-size two-toed sloth?
He is about a year old, and he's gotten quite big. He was only about the size of a little grapefruit when we got him, and much darker colored. He's getting lighter as he gets older, and this light color in the forest, it's amazing. They blend in so well, and they'll just sit balled up in these little roots and things that grow around the trees, and their camouflaging is incredible. Their fur even gets a greenish tinge to it when the algae grows in their fur and helps enhance their camouflage.
That's why I wore this shirt today, because I wanted to be extra tropical to make Oliver feel at home like he always is in the forest. Now, I love a lot of stuff you said there, because all my notes, and I try to do my research as much as I can. I'll never know even a fraction of what you do, obviously. But I have a whole list of just what I call fun facts about sloths in general, and two-toed sloths in particular. And one that you already mentioned was the algae that grows that helps camouflage them. So something that's really cool is that Oliver is an animal himself, but he has a whole little environment on his body when they're out in the wild. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Not only do they grow the algae on their fur, but they even have moths that live in their fur.
That's crazy.
And these moths will stay with the sloth when the sloth comes down to go to the bathroom once a week or so.
Another fun fact I learned, they only go to the bathroom once a week, these sloths. I can't imagine. That's crazy.
That's insane.
It's like, oh, Friday, time to go down and, do my Friday business.
Everything happens slow in the sloth world.
I imagine so. And we're seeing him move here, and everything very deliberate, very slow, but that's for a reason.
Yep. Well, you know what? Of course, he's trying to camouflage and blend in really good. So being kind of part of the forest, a lot of predators just pass them over. But the thing is, people are often fooled by, they think they're really slow, but these two-toed sloths can actually move a lot faster than most people realize.
How fast are we talking here?
Well, if they're a little upset and they want to come at you or reach out, they can do it very quickly. But, he's not going to win any races, but it's faster than most people think, and much faster than a three-toed sloth is.
So I should be very careful to not agitate him because he could move at me quickly. Very interesting, the three-toed sloth, too, because I think that's the sloth most people maybe are more familiar with or think of when they first hear the term sloth. How different are they? How similar are they, two-toed versus three-toed?
The three-toed sloths are smaller, and they're more specialized. They'll eat only certain plants, and they're very particular about their diet. So when you see two-toed sloths outside of South and Central America, it's usually the two-toed sloths because they can live in captivity. The three-toed sloths are so specialized. I've never seen them outside of their native countries in zoos, and if there are, there's not very many.
Wow, interesting. One question I love to ask before we get too deep into the show, with every animal we bring in, can I pet it? Am I allowed to touch
You can touch
Oliver
him
here?
if you
Awesome.
just pet him very gently. And he's got this really soft hair, which if you look at it, it all goes one direction. So when they get wet,
My
there's a
favorite
lot
band, by the way. But yeah, continue.
But as the water runs down, it channels it all off and it drips it all off. So
Another fun fact. You guys think I'm kidding. I have literally 8 things that are listed just as fun facts. The hair growing in the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, you've mentioned the water running back, but
Yeah.
explain to us, that has to do with the upside downness of their life, right?
Absolutely, everything's orientated.
He's
so that
he's
this guy-
exploring this set here. He's going off branch.
so he can live an upside down life, you know, and you know they're so good at blending in. It just I can't impress upon you. I've seen them in the wild, and they'll just be sitting like pretty close to you, and you just cannot find them. It's amazing how they do that. And this hair really looks like the roots on the plants that grow on the trees.
Yeah, he's blending in right now, if you look, and not so much, I think, on his face, but on his back, it's pretty much the same color as this bark that he's on right now. So, right, he fits very much in. And look at that. It's the coat hangers, like you said, on the back, and then he comes down to grab a little bit of food. Sarah, what's it looking like in the comments
We
right now?
have so many fans here. A lot of people loving sloths in general. Lisa Russo says sloths are so cute. And then we've got a lot of questions coming in. But before I get to some of the questions, I want to shout out Joanna Wilkins because this is hilarious. She said, this is basically live footage of my children waking up and getting ready for school in the morning. But let me ask some of the questions. Can sloths be kept as pets? Ava Pellman said she wants to know if that's something that's possible because they're so cute.
I think a lot of people would like to have a sloth for a pet, but I think the problem is they need really specialized care. And I think for most people, if they tried to do it, they wouldn't be successful. And it's not the kind of animal that you just be carrying around with you and letting people pet, because they can bite and they can be a little nasty sometimes, although they look very sweet. If you bother them, they will defend themselves. They need specialized diet and heat. And many times when people attempt to keep them as pets, it doesn't work out well. So I would discourage it.
You mentioned specialized. What are some examples of what may be too difficult for the normal person to maybe do as a pet caretaker?
They're going to need a specialized enclosure so you control the heat and humidity for them. And even though they're mammals and they're warm-blooded like we are, they have bacteria in their system that help break down the leaves that they eat. So everything happens really slowly. And when the sloth is warming its body, it'll often lay in the sun, like kind of bask in the sun to raise its body temperature. And this will help that bacteria work faster. So if you don't have them warm enough, they can literally starve to death.
And you don't want that for any sloth or any pet, really. Sarah, you got some more?
Yeah, sure. Speaking of the food, Kristen Lighting Mater Alford says, I love all animals. What do sloths love to eat? Also, how old is he?
He's almost a year old, and he'll eat a lot of different greens, little veggies. He eats a specialized a biscuit it's made for primates, but we use it for our sloths, and they really like it. So he's going to get a little bit of this. This is one of his favorites. Oh,
Oliver, here you go. It's
here we
treat time,
go.
buddy.
Oh yeah, and there he goes.
Oh, that's so good. He just went jaws wide open right for it.
Now, if you look at his teeth too, he's got some sharp teeth in there.
Yeah, there are. How many teeth do they have? I'm counting maybe 4 or so.
Yeah, there's not many. I think they only have like, less than a dozen in their mouth there. Just a couple canines, a few molars.
But they are sharp. He's tearing into that biscuit.
It's quality, not quantity.
Yeah, those front teeth are like little sharpened. They're sharpening together constantly.
Whitney Jones wants to know, is the sloth endangered or is their population climbing?
There are many different types. There's different types of sloths. There's different types of two-toed sloths and three-toed sloths. And the three-toed sloths, the three-toed sloths in general are more in trouble because they need specialized habitat and diet. Where the two-toed sloths will live in a lot of different types of forests, or more generalized rather. So they're not suffering as badly, but both the two and three-toed sloths are losing habitat quickly through deforestation, which is causing a lot of problems because they end up in roads and places where it's really hard for them to get out of the way, and they often are injured, sadly.
I love this question as well. Jessica Sadler said, do sloths look mostly alike, or can they change in color after birth?
Well, when they're young, they're going to be very dark brown. And what's amazing to me is if a mom has her baby, she'll cling to the mom. The baby will cling to the mom. He'll blend in so much with his mom's fur that you can barely see the baby. The baby's even camouflaged on the mother. It's hard to see that she has a baby. And he'll get in there and get warm in her fur. And the biggest threat to the baby sloths is really freezing because of the rain that cools their body temperature down.
Man, so from day one, they're hidden, they're camouflaged, whether it's on mom or on a tree or with the plants behind them. That's awesome. I mean, nature's incredible. The fact that they can do that stuff
it's
just
amazing.
Naturally. It's unbelievable. Back to the habitats you mentioned before. I know, Sarah, you and I were talking before we came on live today. We've seen them in Costa Rica. I've seen them on vacation. I think, Sarah, you said you
Same
have
thing,
as well.
yeah.
So that's kind of their zone, right? Tropical, Central South America. Most people maybe have seen sloths, 2- or 3-toed,
Oh, yeah.
in places like that.
More likely the 2-toed sloths because they're more common. But in some areas where the 3 toes exist and they're protected, you might see them more. But it's usually these guys are the prevalent species.
All right, so we talked about how his 2 toes are actually the claws in the front, not the toes in the back, because he has the 3.
You only count the front ones.
Only count the front ones. How long do these get? Because we're seeing them now, and they look very effective. Oliver's having a great time hanging and grabbing fruit and everything, but you're telling me he's not done growing yet.
No, he will get nearly twice this size. And it's kind of deceiving because they can roll up in a tight ball, but then at the same time stretch out really far, and those arms have an amazing grasp. They're very strong pulling, but they're kind of weak at pushing, so when they're walking upright on the ground, it's kind of like a pathetic dragging they do themselves. But they are
Oliver,
capable
don't take
of
those
swimming.
bad words to heart, buddy.
But they can swim. They're very capable
So
swimmers.
these guys can swim.
Absolutely. They do a little doggy paddle in the water, both the 3- and 2-toed sloths. And they have to do this because in many parts of the rainforest where they live, especially in the Amazon basin, it floods. And these animals are stranded, and they have to be able to swim to another tree or another forest where they're high and dry.
That's what I was wondering when you mentioned swimming. I was curious how often they go into a river or a lake, but it's more the flooding that they have to, it's more survival than voluntary swimming.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's incredible, an incredible adaptation. So do you ever throw them in water just for fun, or is that something they only do when necessary?
We spray him down, and he doesn't always like it, you know.
Who likes taking a bath, right?
But he does get sprayed down pretty often, and you know that even though he may or not like it, this is what they do. And in the wild, they endure some pretty tough rainstorms. You'll always see them sleeping, with their at least one foot hooked onto something, so they don't blow off in their sleep.
and it's strong enough, the grip, right?
Oh,
that they can
absolutely,
sleep
yeah.
without falling off or wind knocking them over or anything.
And the hand on this animal is unbelievable. If you look how long his palm is, if you can see this.
Show us some
keep
palm, Oliver.
distracted here.
There it is.
But it has like a long pad right here, and that claw is going to get so much longer that he just effortless for him to just hook it right on. It fits right over the branch.
How long are we talking here for this claw eventually?
For it to grow in?
Yeah.
Oh, probably another year or so. Then it'll be.
I meant lengthwise. So when the claw becomes its fullest length possible, how long is that claw going to be?
Well, it's probably going to be about. I've seen them where our older sloths, we trim them more.
Okay.
But they've gotten like 3 inches long.
Oh wow.
Like a dagger. Wow.
Yeah. So once those things start swiping, bad news, I would imagine.
That kind of goes into a question that I've had on here. Tim Larson wants to know what or who are their predators besides us?
Believe it or not, their worst predator is a harpy eagle. It's a huge eagle.
Attack from above.
And they're called monkey-eating eagles, but they often feed on sloths. And I've seen footage of them just grabbing a sloth right off a tree and flying away with it. And talk about an animal twice the size of this to be able to carry that away.
Yeah,
that is
how
a
big is this
massive
eagle?
bird. It's the largest eagle. It's huge. It's like would be standing on this table like this.
Jeez. Good thing we don't have one of those in here today, 'cause I'd be scared.
I'm sure Oliver's happy about that. Yeah.
Anything else? So eagles are the most dangerous ones.
Jaguars are a big threat. So when they come down to the ground, they always defecate on the ground once every 5 days or a week or so. That's when they're taking the biggest chance. So what'll happen is they'll get attacked by jaguars while they're on the ground then.
Man, who would think just going to the bathroom is potentially the most dangerous part of your life or your weekly schedule? That's tough. So Oliver here, we mentioned sort of the once a week for the bathroom, or they swim when they have to switch trees. What's the rest of the day like? Nocturnal, diurnal, a lot of sleeping? What's the day of a life in the sloth like?
They are more nocturnal than diurnal, although they have short periods of activity during the day, but they're primarily nocturnal, and they do a lot of sleeping, which is also when they're digesting their food, which is another reason if you had one for a pet, you're not going to be able to bother it too much. They've got to be able to have time to just rest and digest their food, because that's really a lot of what they're doing, and this is how they survive. They're eating a lot of low nutrition food, and they're just kind of sleeping their life away, avoiding predators and digesting this hard to digest food.
Right, because I imagine eating just leaves most of the time. Not many vitamins in there, not a lot of protein, all that kind of stuff. So it takes some time to really break all that down.
Oh, yeah.
I loved this question from Whitney Jones. She said, do sloths like to hang out together, or do they like to be alone? Because something so cute should have tons of cuddle buddies.
Also, nice pun, hang out together, since that's what sloths do all the time. But yeah, that's a good question, John. Are they social?
Typically not too social. Of course, mothers spend time with their babies, and then males and females will come together when they're breeding. But and I have seen 2 or 3 in one tree, but typically they're alone. They're pretty much a loner.
Oh, that is sad, because they do look like a lot of fun to hang out with and be cuddle buddies with each other. So I'm sad to hear that they stay so lonely. We are here with John Tarrant from Outrageous Pets, and he brought along Oliver. This is about a year-old two-toed sloth who we're learning all about today. We're taking all your comments and questions, so keep them coming in as Sarah is reading those. Whatever you want to know about Oliver, fire away. So we've already learned he's about a year old. He's only about half the size he's going to end up being. He's going to keep growing as an adult. The diet we've gone over. You mentioned the digestive process. And this really fascinates me too, because that's one of the reasons they move so slowly, is because it takes so long to digest everything, right?
Yeah.
So how long are we talking here? I've read some stuff online, maybe up to a month they can take digesting some food?
It can be. I mean, typically it's going to take about a week or so. You know, and then this is going to just pass through very slowly. Everything happens very slowly. But for the plants that he's eating, it's very efficient the way he's digesting it. So he's trying to get the most out of it. And to do that, he's got to spend a lot of time digesting. Koalas are like this too, and they do a lot of sleeping. They eat a lot of eucalyptus leaves, so there's not a lot of nutrition in their food. And they're very sleepy animals as well.
Poor Oliver thinks these are real plants, and if he's trying to eat those, talk about low nutrition. There's not going to be many nutrients in those plants back there, Oliver. You stick with John here. He's going to be able to give you the treats and all the food that you want. Now, you mentioned how the digestive system, it takes a long time, and it's a lot of sleeping and a lot of that involved. How does that conflict when they do get in some kind of high stress situation? You mentioned predators before. They can run, they can move. If Oliver here is like mid digestion, but all of a sudden a harpy eagle's coming down and he's got to get moving, can they just flip a switch and turn into fight or flight kind of sloths?
They can move faster than you'd think, especially the two-toed sloths. Three-toed sloths, if they're going to get it into high gear, it's probably half the speed of these guys, even at the top speed. But if they're just interrupted for a little bit, it's not going to be a constant stress. But I think someone having it for a pet, picking them up constantly, that would be more of a thing that could break down their digestive system or be too much for them to handle.
It's just so incredible.
We have another joke that people are being funny today, so I got to shout them out. Jalissa Nissim said, I want to meet a sloth, and I'm not referring to the guy I married. Now, Whitney Jones wants to know, are his toes or claws used as weapons or self-defense, or mostly just for hanging around and chilling?
A lot of people think they slash their claws, and anteaters, their cousins, will do that sometimes. But with these guys, they're grabbing, and sometimes if they're protecting themselves, they'll pull you in to bite you. It's really their teeth that they're using more than their claws. I've never been hurt by their claws at all. It doesn't really have that much of a... especially when they're older, they're not even that sharp.
Yeah, his claws right now are more just nudging you to give you more lettuce, is exactly what the claws are being used for.
While he's sitting here, I want to see if I can show you one of his ears.
Yeah, so these sloths have ears that you can't see unless you're really deep in there. And John, you were finding them before. Yeah, if you can uncover one here, because you got to see this. I don't know if we can get that close in the cameras, but it's amazing.
But everything protects them. If you're constantly getting water in your ears, this is all going to channel that away. So you can see how this little flop of hair here, it's almost like a little umbrella over his head, and it covers his ear. Come on, bud.
I got an
Now he's
interesting
being
fact
shy.
that I want to know maybe if there's any truth to this. Spencer Hingston said something interesting. They're testing the green, I'm going to say this wrong, lichen that grows on their fur in the wild as a cure for cancer. I just went to Costa Rica and he was told this. Do you know anything about it? Or
I haven't heard it, but it doesn't surprise me because lichens, like the little algae.
There it
and
is.
things
There,
like
Sorry.
lichens. Yeah, word of the day.
that would-
I didn't know either. Don't worry.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
But what happens is, a lot of times they'll discover some really interesting facts about some antibiotic or something that might be contained in the sloth's fur or something else. So although I haven't heard of that, I'm not surprised by it because there's so many different discoveries, for medicinal purposes that they've from ants to plants, everything, they're discovering, antibiotic, anti-cancer treatment, stuff like that. So it wouldn't surprise me.
And this brings me back to, Kendall wants to know, what's the deal with the sloth moth? Like what the moths that we discussed, why aren't there moths flying around?
Yeah.
And
Being a captive sloth, he doesn't have them on him. But in the wild, every sloth has these moths that live in their fur, and that's their environment. When the sloth goes to the bathroom once a week or so, the sloths come off the moth, lay their eggs in the dung of the sloth. The caterpillars feed on that, and often the sloths return to the same sites where they go to the bathroom, sort of like a scent marking that they do. So the moths will climb off, climb back on. When they hatch out of their pupae, they get back on and hitchhike a ride on another sloth, and the cycle goes on and on.
Symbiotic relationship, right? That's
There
a
we
fancy
go.
word for it.
Yeah, well, you know what? I don't know if the sloth benefits from the moth as
Oh,
much as the moth benefits from the sloth.
So the moth is the moocher, and the sloth is the one doing all the hard work, helping out the moths and everything. No, that's awesome. And the fact that these animals know to do that with each other. The moth knows, hey, let's hang out on that guy. He's going to go down next week. We can lay our eggs,
absolutely.
jump back on. Absolutely incredible. I love the joke from before about the woman whose husband was the sloth
Yeah.
at home. That's actually why they're named this, right? It's kind of after the deadly sin of sloth, because
Yep.
people would always think they're kind of lazy and just and sloth-like, right? So that's the origin of the name.
Absolutely. Sometimes when Oliver's eating, he'll have a piece of lettuce over his face. He'll fall asleep like mid-lunch there, and just fall asleep with his food right on his face.
I've been known to do that before myself.
It's happened to us all, hasn't it? But they are mammals like us, right?
Absolutely.
Even though they may not look it.
Yep.
But they are in the same classification.
They're
as us.
mammals. They're warm-blooded. They give their babies milk, but they have to get a lot of heat from the sun, and you'll often see them basking almost like a reptile. So they're using the sun's energy to get their body temperature up, and because they're related to anteaters and armadillos, these animals are famous for having have a fluctuating body temperature, and it can raise and lower depending on the animal's metabolism. Hey, don't eat that.
That's the claws in action. Did you see that? He just swiped in there for those flowers. Again, Oliver, you're not going to get any nutrients out of eating those.
There we go. But they are pretty, aren't they?
They are very
You're gonna
pretty.
smell
Yeah.
the flowers here.
Michelle Derry wants to know, do sloths get along with other animals? We're talking dogs, cats, mice, any I guess more. Have you seen this sloth in particular, any of your sloths interact with more domesticated animals?
They pretty much ignore other animals.
They're the cool kids in class.
Yeah,
huh?
they don't need any other animals to be friends with. They just kind of do their own thing, and I just find he's kind of indifferent to other animals.
Well, is that part of just their, in general, individual kind of lifestyle? Because they don't hang out with other sloths that much, you said, either.
And they're not very social like primates are, so they're just kind of doing what they do really well to survive, and that's all they want to do.
Just wake up for one more day, for tomorrow.
Now, Kara wants to know if they have good eyesight or a good sense of smell in terms of the senses.
Their eyesight is horrible, but their sense of smell is really good. And if you look at Oliver's nose, if you were watching when we were zooming in on him, it's very sensitive. He's feeling with his nose and he's smelling with his nose. And when we put him on this branch, he was just kind of examining that. With every inch of that little log there, he was sniffing it, touching it. And to me, I think that's really where he's getting all his information from. He's just checking everything out with his nose. He can hear pretty good. And his eyesight, like I said, is horrible. But he's related to anteaters. He's related to anteaters and armadillos. They also have the same horrible sense of sight, but they have very good sense of smell.
Yeah, we'll see when Oliver turns his head back around and comes closer to camera, but his eyes are very tiny.
Yes.
So, do you know, are there studies done? How far can he see? You say it's pretty bad eyesight. How bad are we talking here?
You know what? I think a lot of times if we walk in their enclosures, they don't seem to look at us as much as they may hear or feel vibrations or something like that. And I think that's what they sense first. So it's hard to judge how good he can see. And sometimes if he's checking out a piece of food, he might look at it and then really smell it before he takes a bite. As he's examining these flowers, he just has to smell them to see what is that?
That's great. Yeah, he's putting his face right in there. He's just digging in because I guess, if the smell is the strongest scent, you want to just throw the little schnoz right in there and see what that's all about. Interesting that he's still going after these because I would think he would register by now that they're not real, right?
Yeah, they'll check things out. They're always checking out to see if they can reach onto something to get to another branch.
I want to take it in a different direction. We had somebody, Donna Bridges asked, how are sloths as parents? And somebody else asked about the pregnancy of a sloth and reproduction.
They're good parents. The mother has a very strong bond with her baby or the baby with the mom, and they'll hang together and cling to that mom for months, and they may even stay together for about a year. And eventually when they go their own ways, they may just get separated and the baby goes on his own. And sometimes they'll even live in the territories that their moms live in.
It's funny because, we're so used to, my mom, I'm in touch with her all my adult life. But these babies, after a year, they're off on their own. How frequent do they stay in the same kind of territory as the mom? Or do they often just try and be rebellious and go off on their own spot?
I would say the females probably stay more local, and then the males move on and branch out to find, unrelated animals that they can father babies.
Would What's that process like? Do sloths fight over females? Is there a dominant male kind of thing, or just whoever finds whoever first?
It happens pretty slow.
I would imagine, yeah, a very elongated courtship process.
But the males may actually fight each other a little bit, and they have bigger canines than the females too. So I've never seen them inflict injuries on each other, but I'm sure it could happen if they're fighting each other over the rights to breed.
Man, yeah, very different definitions to taking it slow when you're dating someone. Sloths versus us humans. How many babies would a sloth have in its lifetime, or how often does a pregnancy cycle come through?
Well, in the wild they could live like 10 to 15 years. So in that lifetime, the mother might have maybe 5 babies or so.
Oh, wow.
In captivity more, because they've been known to live over 30 years in captivity.
Really?
20 is not uncommon.
Wow, so that's almost double the lifestyle from the wild versus being in captivity.
Absolutely.
In some
absolutely.
cases.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. But now everything, even the birth, is upside down, right? Their whole life, mating, birth, everything happens upside down. Right?
That we had one born at our place, and as the baby came out, he just came right around and clung right to the mom's fur. And once he was in there, you could barely see him. It was amazing.
Wow. So literally never goes to the ground, never goes to the tree.
Yeah.
Just out of the mom and right to the little nesting belly.
Yeah. A lot of times in South America, if they have little sloths, then they're orphan sloths, they'll give them a teddy bear and they'll cling to that teddy bear just like they're holding on to their mom.
Man, that is so awesome. So cool. Again, we're here with Oliver the two-toed sloth, and the man who's telling us all about him is John Tarrant from Outrage His Pets, and we got Sarah reading all your comments and questions. You guys have been great so far, asking a lot of great questions, so keep them coming in. This tree's about to fall over on me. Is Oliver knocking us over? Look at you, Oliver, getting all rambunctious and working our set. If I let this fall, boom, it's going to happen. So Oliver, discovering so much of his environment, how curious are they? Like, is this in the wild, or once they find a place to just kind of hang out, will they stay there and stop exploring?
I think they're very curious. They're always checking out something to see if another sloth has been there, if they smell something, a scent another sloth has left, or if there's something that's good to eat, they want to smell it. And I think they could probably smell the leaves to see which ones are the safest ones to eat. A lot of these plants in the rainforest have toxins in their leaves, and he may be investigating each leaf to see which ones has the least amount of toxin in it that he can digest.
John, let me tell you, we've had so many animals on this show here on this set. He may be smelling a monkey right now, or a kitten. We had a cheetah last week, or a penguin last week, I should say. So he may be just going bananas right now with the olfactory senses, gotta say. Not just plants, though. Two-toed sloths have been known to maybe eat insects, other stuff, if necessary, or is that only sort of in emergency cases?
You know what, I've read that it's possible that they'll do it. I've never seen it myself, and the ones that we have, they're pretty much, they're basically vegetarian. So I wouldn't say they wouldn't include it in their diet occasionally, especially if there's no plants to eat. but he's almost eating these plastic plants.
He's
here.
loving our set.
Oh,
I'm happy because Oliver, he feels at home, right? If he was all curled up in a
Yes.
ball and just hiding, then I'd
no,
feel
no.
bad.
He's investigating everything. He's eating. And then, when they're young, too, they're very curious.
Man, it's so great. And I mean, more fun facts I have. We could be here all day, but they have like half the muscle mass of normal mammals. They can't shiver when they're cold, right? I've read
Exactly.
stuff like that.
Exactly.
Just such an incredible, interesting animal.
Yeah, which is another reason why they have to bask in the sun to get a lot of, temperature, to raise their body temperature.
I'm glad you brought that back up because I was curious when you mentioned that before. They live in a forest. Do they get a lot of sun? Because they're trying to hide in a tree, but they also need sunlight. How does that work?
Yeah, well, during rainstorms and their fur gets very wet, they'll kind of huddle down and conserve their body heat. Sometimes they'll find a little cavity in the hole of a tree or something like that. And then once the sun comes out, they're trying to get these sunny spots so they can dry off and get their body warm again and get their body temperature right back up.
Incredible stuff. All right, well, John, we're going to let you go because Oliver is doing some
He's
redecorating
doing
here. Sarah, any last-minute comments or questions from the folks out there?
I mean, I
watching?
just have to say, Hallie Eisenhardt said, are more people aware of these guys now and helping because of it? I love sloths and was very surprised of how many people had never heard of them. So thanks for bringing awareness to the sloths.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are more aware of sloths and the plight of the other animals that live in the forest with them. And because they're so cute and personable, people are concerned about their welfare. And then this gets them to learn about other animals, too, that need help in the forest.
It's awesome stuff. All right, well, again, John Tarrant from Outrage Hiss Pets, thank you so much for bringing Oliver and letting him hang out with us.
Thanks
This was
for
a
having
lot
us.
of fun. And Oliver, yeah, enjoy the fake leaves. We'll try and get you some real stuff, too, soon, buddy, so don't you worry. And thanks to you guys, again, for watching, giving your awesome comments, your funny jokes today, too. It was great, and your awesome questions. Don't forget to join us every single Friday right here for more amazing, incredible animals. I'm going to miss Oliver. He's got a special place in my heart now. Thank you again, John, and thanks to you guys for watching. This has been Wildlives on Little Things. Ciao for now.